What's going on, creators? Yeah, just want to get on here and bring everybody back to now. Appreciate y'all being here and vibing with me for a bit. Yeah, today I got some things to talk about on the old agenda here. Hopefully add something positive to your mental diet for today. And it has to do kind of with what the topic was yesterday about like non-resistance. And I can understand that being a trigger. It triggers me when I hear people say that because like my mind immediately goes to like, oh, what does that mean? Give up? Just allow the undesirable to continue to make me suffer and just deal with it, and just that's the way things are. That's not how we're going to define kind of like non-resistance, but like kind of like the new way to look at it is maybe looking at non-resistance as, oh, I had the thought of fear of the old mind that came in, instead of wrestling with it and strengthening it, like battling against it, like that's not who I am, and fuck you, how dare you, just want to vengeance against and battle against like your old mindset. It's like looking at it with less judgment and going, oh, okay, here, this is what it is, but I'm going to choose to put my attention elsewhere. I recognize that's like how I used to think, but I'm going to choose to think differently. And so part of like moving forward is to, and this is like a daily practice because it's only ever now, and so the idea of like you're going to work on this for like a 3-year plan, 5-year plan, knock that out of your mind. It's about like right now and actually enjoying your life now and feeling good, feeling peaceful, feeling the fruits of the spirit, love, joy, peace, all these kind of things. First of which, you can start to get into by setting the intention of this is what I'm going to do today. I'm not going to just kind of just drift like the old man likes to do, like to be drifting and just reacting to narratives, reacting to other people's stories, reacting to the media, reacting to culture, it's always react. It's never creating. It's never, I'm going to choose this day, to experience love and joy and peace and enjoy the life God gave me to live. So setting the intention is really, something to do moving forward of like today, I'm going to find as much peace as possible, or what, fill in the blank for you, whatever you're desiring, which, on some level is saying, yeah, you're not experiencing that. It's like, maybe if you're in states of suffering and torment, it's like, oh, peace sounds nice, but, I'm so used to suffering and torment. It sounds like a far-fetched idea, but, bear with me here and, set the intention that today, will be just filled with ease. Today will just be an easy day. Today will just be effortlessly coming to, because ultimately it's not trusting in our own force and ability to make things happen. It's in trusting that God will start to mirror that new state back to us, that God's in control of them, and we don't got to worry about it. We get to sit and enjoy creation today. And so, as you're kind of doing that, putting that on, don't be surprised then, if the mind of the senses, that's, well, I'm looking around right now and I can't see how that's a possibility. It's like the old mind always needed the evidence first. It always needed like the 3D to show it, before it can embody a state of like, oh, today I'm going to have some hope. Today I'm going to have some peace. Even though maybe nothing has changed, my mindset has changed. And so that's good enough for right now. And so, along with that, though, it's not just a mental activity; it's a heart-based activity. So try to feel the emotions of that. Then too, it's like how would you feel knowing that your day is going to be easy, filled with ease and peace and joy, fun situations, fun circumstances, fun people, positive energy exchanges, just, that kind of flow. Day just filled with flow, bliss, and all that kind of stuff. How does that make you feel? It's like you don't got any problems today. The old mind was to come in. It's like, well, let me implant a scarcity belief to get you worried and concerned. Oh, let me plant something for you to react to from the news. Oh, let me bring you back to reality. Which is funny because it's so insane to continuously suffer and like look for the negative and like then experience that in these kind of loops, and it's like, oh, let me get back to the reality, which like the reality is just like a suffering hellhole, in that kind of mindset. Not to say that that's actually the case, because creation, is perfect in the way that God created it. The problem is like our understanding about it, is like what we're learning, and so, keeping it in the new creation that you are, and not drifting back into the old, is like really important. But when those things do happen, don't sit there and like, I'm gonna wrestle against it, fuck you, old me, old mindset, so you can even, I don't know, take it to its furthest extreme. Like, fuck you, Satan. How dare you try to attack me today? Not today, Satan. Because to me, at least, so much of that old mindset was married with fear. And so, embodying that kind of old state, was intertwined with like ultimately like serving satanic things, which is ultimately another way of saying serving fear and suffering and separation from God and people and everything else, but that's the root error of that, the old paradigm, the old mindset, is that you are not connected. You're like a brain in a body. You're just like this little story that you told yourself, where you're just this alone being in a body, separate from your neighbors, separate from your family, separate from God, separate from heavenly things, separate from your life situations, all these opposing wills going on. You got the will of your body, the will of man, the will of nature, the will of all these different wills, but once you start getting into the new creation that you are, the identity of who you are in Christ, is another way to say that. So like you start seeing how everything's connected, and how creation functions a lot like a mirror, constantly showing you who your soul believes its identity to be, and with that as your faith, that's your assumptions, that's your beliefs. All of these things get mirrored into creation and your circumstances of life, so it's like if you have a lot of scarcity beliefs, you'll see those reflected in the not enoughness of your day-to-day, all these kinds of things, but like looking at that when it starts to happen and go, okay, well that was my past belief, my past assumption that was holding me in this paradigm, this frequency, this paradigm of reality, this, if you look at everything in your life as like, this is what you're able to steward at your level of consciousness, what you desire is to grow, and experience maybe more bliss, more joy, more abundance, more whatever, you're desiring whatever. God gave you those desires, not to guilt and shame yourself over them things, but to look at them and go, okay, that's on the other side of this fear, this resistance, this story that just came up in the present moment. So in the past, where I would affirm it by battling against it and reacting to it and putting a bunch of attention onto the problem, I'm going to choose to, and one of the things not to get, I found this to be a stumbling block in myself, is to sit there and like, oh, that's not who I am, and then wrestle with it for, back and forth in my own like mind, which was causing me not to be able to have peace in that moment, because I'm sitting there battling against like these old thoughts and beliefs instead of just letting it go, but like, look at it and accept that it's there. Don't sit there and like, oh, how dare this be in my consciousness and whatever. It's like, yeah, it was. Okay, I'm not gonna be delusional. I'm not. It's like, yeah, that's fake. But it's like, oh, I cut my finger off, and then it's like, it's delusional to be like, no, I didn't. But you can't, because that's part of like kind of the old accusations. It's like, oh, trying to move from a state that you're not physically embodying yet is delusional. It's delusional to be happy and then hope that happy outcomes start to follow. And that's like something I experienced, but it's like, yeah, it's like, okay, well, I cut my finger off. That was the past, it'll get reattached. It's okay. It's like, that's not who I am. And like, hopefully that doesn't trigger anybody. Oh, he's signaling, but like, accept that it's there. Don't sit there and be resistant to just these errant thoughts. Recognize it's from the past. It's what's held you in your current paradigm of your life. It's a block. It's holding you down. But who are you going to be in relationship to it now? This is all about identity. And so it's like, okay, well, I had this this thought. Instead of resisting it, strengthening it by reacting to it, putting my attention onto the problem, again, I'll choose, hey, yeah, okay, that was just a thought. That's not who I am anymore. I still choose peace, and don't let that take you out of your state of peace. Bring that future to now, And as you do that, you'll be amazed at how much your life situations will start to mirror that new change in state. Don't be surprised if there's resistance that comes up, because we've all been through a bunch of drama and bullshit and trauma, and so you gotta work through these things, not just bury them and pretend like they're not there, but heal from them. And so part of the healing comes from, okay, recognizing maybe on some level your role in that mindset. Did you really believe that for some reason, and then see it work, and then not want to let it go, even though it may not be serving you. That's one of the things I noticed, with my upbringing, is just like a real kind of strong work ethic, where it's just like, you gotta do. But I've realized, though, through my handyman business, the more I just trust that God's my provider and everything will work out, that the jobs will come because God's the one that gives them. All I have to do is just not be sitting here freaking out about scarcity. I just have to be still. That's the only thing I gotta do. I don't got to make, through force, make shit happen. And in my old kind of way of thinking, I was doing a lot of that, especially like the music business, calling up advertising agencies, calling up, these different media producers, and hey, you need some music, I got some, I got a library of tracks, and networking with publishing people, trying to force it through just my own ego will, which on some level there was limited success, but immediately followed by more scarcity, more fear. Oh, what if that doesn't work? And then it's just a constant just anxiety. Even low grade anxiety is still just unnecessary, because you start to go, okay, this is only happening in my mind. I could be, do I want to sit here and be telling myself worst case scenarios and what ifs, and trying to plot and scheme how I'm going to make shit happen for ultimately what is the goal of what I'm trying to accomplish? To feel good, to feel safe, to feel like I made it. It's just like, all of these are concepts that aren't even real, but there's all this efforting and force, and it's like, what am I trying to achieve? I'm miserable, like through the present moment, grinding, sacrificing and grinding, for what? Some payoff in the quote unquote future, which all it's doing in the present moment is declaring to creation that it's not what you are. It's so you're pushing it away. But instead, which is part of the ass backwards ends of that mindset, where it's just like, start feeling, peace, abundance, joy, all these things that you're efforting for. Just give that to yourself now. It's like you don't have shit to prove to anybody. It's just like, let that go. It's like, who are you trying to impress? Who cares? It's just be happy. Be feeling good. It's like, once you realize that all of the, most of the suffering is just from thought, of unfulfilled desires. Oh, if I only had a couple million more dollars, if I only had a couple whatever more women and blowjobs, if I only had if I only had better career where people respect me, if I only had a bigger house, then the neighbors will think I made it, and then, oh, if I only had a six-pack, then people will think I'm like whatever. It's all these stories that we tell ourselves about, like, how we got to effort and do to achieve a feeling. When you achieve the feeling, and then God starts to effortlessly move you through a bridge of incidents in a way that you didn't even imagine is like could happen, and then like you get to the destination. It just happens, and it happens so effortlessly and naturally and normally, because we're always been doing this. Most of us have just been doing it in reverse, and been going down the abyss, with our fears and errors in thinking, and ultimately creating a hellhole for our life. But and there's so much resistance to even stop, like, letting go of that control. It's like, oh, I want to let go. I let go. I don't trust God for some reason. I don't trust love. I'd rather just do it. because I know I wouldn't hurt myself, but it's like you are hurting yourself all the time in your own mind. You're telling yourself stories that don't make any sense and are limiting and ultimately self-sabotaging and suffering inducing. But then we create stories about how great the suffering is and how it builds character, and we make it part of our identity, even though you could just as easily make love and joy part of your identity. And the only difference is the story you're telling yourself in your mind, and realize, how much these thoughts, if you're starting to feel like shit, realize that, God is within you, and there's a reason why you feel like shit, because it's contrary to who you actually are, and God's showing you these things. If it feels good, it's because God's already in that state for you. Creation's already finished, and so it's like you're just basically rejecting, you're rejecting what you actually want when you're not embodying it first, because God's already gave it to you. You push it away, by your lack of faith, your resistance, you're not feeling worthy or good enough or whatever. You push love away. It's crazy, but you do. But like yeah, and so start today to recognize that. And by not being non-resistant, looking at that as just like, that was just who I was. Yeah, I believe these things. Okay. Yeah, sure, I have pain. Sure, yeah, this situation's going on. I'm not going to be delusional about it, but I'm not going to reaffirm the same thoughts about it. I'm going to choose instead to ask God what to think. I don't need it. You don't got to come up with anything. You just ask. It's like, oh, I'm stuck in this old mind. I'm suffering and creating these narratives, and ultimately these things that aren't even real or true. Hey God, what is real or true? Then be still and wait. You might get some more resistant thought. And it's like, no, I want to hear what love has to say. Maybe another errant thought, and just be still. And then eventually, once you become still, it'll like come to you. It's like, oh, that's a different way to look at it. I'll just go with that. It just happens that it's like you don't have to figure this thing out by yourself. You don't got to come up with the plan. You just got to realize God's already created the plan. You're exactly where you need to be, and God's in control of even your resistance. Is part of like this process. You're just part of a process, and so not to sit there and continuously making the process an efforting, suffering thing. Look at it more of like a healing process, like letting go of the fears. And by doing so, you actually are starting to embody more and more of who you actually are anyway. And so, I just wanted to bring that to you guys as awareness today, attention, and to actually put it on in your beingness. Be that identity today. Be peace, and then you'll experience peace. What you give to others, and you can just, if it's too much to like, physically do something, maybe you're not at that level where it's just like, I'm not comfortable at all doing that. Try doing it at least in your mind and thought. Think kindly of a stranger, because as you give these things, even in thought, to others, it comes back on you, because we're all connected. And so starting to learn how that connectedness is working, because in a lot of ways, what we're experiencing in the 3D world is not only the past, but a shadow of our old beliefs and assumptions being mirrored out in the different circumstances of our life. And so, to move forward, you got to be the change that you wish to see, and as you be it, as that becomes who you are, it starts to be the reflection, the shadow world, and God's timing starts to catch up, and harden into fact. And so, I just wanted to share that with you guys, and hope you guys put that into practice a little bit. Now I got that checklist job to get to here today. Gotta basically cut the shims of the doors and spray some Expando foam in the spaces and put the trim back on, kind of paint the walls, and kind of finish that whole thing up today. And then it's the weekend, which should be fun. And so, other than that, I think that's all I was going to bring up today. And so, until the next now, God bless.